When we begin writing our essay after finishing all the brainstorming for our thesis and content, we obviously look to the introduction first. Imagine that the introduction of your essay is like a roadmap, and your destination is writing a great essay. Of course, you don't just want to take your thesis you've worked so hard on and just shove it into a weak paragraph. In the first section of this video, I'll give you 3 different hooks you can use to reel your readers in. And in the second section of this video, I'll show you how the hook, thesis, and other sentences in the introduction work together to prove your point to the audience. A hook is the opening statement at the beginning of an essay that grabs the reader's attention. But it does more than just that. When correctly used, a good hook leads into an introduction that helps make the thesis and stance of the author known to the reader. The first type of hook that I'll be discussing is the statistic hook. This type of hook has a surprising fact or a number related to whatever topic you're talking about in your essay. This hook is meant to catch the reader's attention, to make them stop and think, is that really true? How is it true? And how can it tie in to what this writer is trying to say? I would say that this type of hook would work best for nonfiction essays, usually on a scientific subject. This type of hook is not only limited to nonfiction. I'm sure you might be able to find some interesting tidbit that you'll be able to use to hook the reader in. For example, I'm going to be using The Little Prince a lot for my hooks in this video. When I searched up interesting facts about The Little Prince, I found out that it's one of the best-selling books in the world. So with that information, I was able to write this hook. The most-selling children's book of all time is The Little Prince, which has sold 200 million copies since its publication in 1943. From there, you're going to take that interesting fact and dive into the rest of your essay with your focus already made clear to the reader. The second hook I'd like to talk about is the anecdotal hook. Starting with a personal story in your essay can help you connect with your audience. The anecdotal hook works well with both nonfiction and fiction. Everyone loves a good story. It makes essays about more abstract and complex subjects relatable, and it gives the reader a reference point. For example, if I were talking about how The Little Prince shows themes of responsibility and how responsibility shapes someone, I would choose a story about something that everyone experiences when they have responsibility over completing a task. So, here's my hook that I wrote for this. When did you last forget to take out the trash, clear the countertop, or clean the windows? Responsibility and accountability are always expected of us in our lives. ... The job that this hook serves is linking the chores that the reader might have done to the actions that the Little Prince carries out in the novel, and makes a sort of bridge between the two so the reader is able to contextualize it. The third and final hook is the description or imagery hook. This one is sort of self-explanatory. You're going to be using vivid words to create a picture in your readers' minds. This hook works perfectly with works of fiction. In my example, I described the setting of The Little Prince to the reader to give them a sort of sense of what type of world we're dealing with. Imagine a world where a whole planet is made out of baobab trees, where you can travel to see many other planets with different inhabitants at any time you wished. And there are talking plants and animals. This is the setting of The Little Prince. Now, when I've written that hook, I'm able to go in and continue on where I left off, on whatever foot that I want to stand on. And the reader will still have an interest in what I'm going to say. You described this fantastic world. What next? The description hook is very useful. Here's my introduction taken from a 10th grade essay I wrote a bit ago. You can see my hook at the beginning of the essay in red, along with the thesis. My hook is anecdotal, focusing on how everyone can remember congratulating someone who is engaged, attending a wedding, or even walking down the aisle themselves. It's a broad claim, seeing that as I've never been to a wedding personally, but it still works. In that sentence, I'm trying to get the reader familiar with a topic I'm going to be honing in on in my essay. So after the hook, I've led the reader to my thesis, How Marriage Dictates Happiness in Regency-Era England. I want to specifically note the sentences between the hook and the thesis. These sentences link the two together by giving out information about your essay, such as the time period or setting of the story or phenomenon, the author, and the introduction of an idea. It's like being introduced to someone and learning their name. You shouldn't have to ask them later. You want your reader to be able to come into your essay with the basic ideas, and you'll supply them with the details. Don't worry about writing too much in your introduction, because the rest of your essay is there to analyze your topic and defend your thesis. Thanks for tuning in. The next video that I'll release will be about writing the 3 body paragraphs in an essay. Happy essay writing!